Hey you guys, so I stopped the other video. I didn't want it to get too long for y'all. So after you watch that first video, I hope you watch the Jack Hartman video of how to do multiples of 0, okay? Multiples is another word for multiplication. So now that you know multiples of 0, I need you to have another sheet of notebook paper, okay? Or if you have your composition book, that would be best. Turn the page, okay? We're gonna start a new page. Now we are gonna write down our multiples of 0, okay? So I want you to write down everything I write, please. So I'm gonna write 0 multiplication, that's our big word again, facts. Okay, so I'm gonna underline it, that's our title. 0 multiplication facts. Now, next I'm gonna write our rule, the word rule, okay, and I'm gonna underline it. Here is our rule. Any number times, there's our fancy word, times means multiplied by, so I'm going to write multiplied by in parentheses. 0 is always, we'll underline that 3 times, always 0. I'm going to pull this up to the camera so y'all can see, and just pause it at home so you can write this down. So our title is 0 multiplication facts, and our rule is any number times, which means multiplied by, 0 is always 0. Okay, that's our rule. I am going to highlight our title so we'll know what we're doing in your journal. And I'm going to highlight the word rule so we can know what our title is. We can easily find our rule, okay? So now what we're going to do, we're going to write down the multiples of 0, okay? So as I write them, you write them at home, please. We're going to start by saying 0 times 0 equals 0, okay? We're going to say 1 times 0 equals 0. Now remember, our rule states that any number times, which means multiplied by 0, is always 0, okay? So we started with 1. Our any number we used was 1 times multiplied by 0, so the answer is 0, okay? We're going to keep going. 2 times 0 equals 0. 3 times 0 equals 0. 4 times 0 equals 0. 5 times 0 equals 0. 6 times 0 equals 0. 7 times 0 equals 0. 8 times 0 equals 0. 9 times 0 equals 0. 10 times 0 equals 0. 11 times 0 equals 0. And finally, 12 times 0 equals 0. So this is what I want your paper at home to look like. And you can pause it right here if you need to catch up. These are our multiples of 0. Let's look at our rule again. Any number, okay, so here's our numbers. Multiplied by, our symbol for multiply is the X. By 0, we multiplied by 0 is always, that means equals 0, okay? Let me show you with our counters what this means, okay? So let's look at the first, or the second one. 1 times 0 equals 0. Our quantity is 1. We're multiplying by groups of 0, okay? Okay, if I have my quantity of 1. Now, the groups I need, the number of groups I need is 0, okay? All right, well, I have my quantity. If I don't need this quantity in any groups, how many's left? 0. So that's literally what that means, okay? So our zeros are super, super easy, just like with Jack Hartman, you saw. Any number times, which means multiplied by 0, is always 0, okay? So I want you to write this down in your journal. Now, on your next page, what I would like for you to do, this is technically your homework, okay? I want you to write down your multiples of 0. Here we have our whole multiples of 0. We went all the way to 12. I want you to write these down 5 times, okay? So that's multiplication in itself. Let me show you guys, okay? This is what I want you to do. This is how I also want you to write it, okay? You're always going to start with your number. 0, that's our quantity, times, that's our multiplication symbol. How many groups? 0 equals, our rule said any number times 0 is always 0, okay? Now, our next one, 1 times 0 equals 0. 2 times 0 equals 0. 3 times 0 equals 0. 4 times 0 equals 0. As you're writing it at home, I want you to say it out loud. And if you can't say it out loud, say it in your head. This is exactly how I want you to write it. 5 times 0 equals 0. 6 times 0 equals 0. 7 times 0 equals 0. 8 times 0 equals 0. 9 times 0 equals 0. 10 times 0 equals 0. 11 times 0 equals 0. 12 times 0 equals 0. Okay? Here's one group. I want you to go all the way to 5 groups. Okay? So you're going to do it again here. That would be 3, 4, 5. Okay? So you need to write your multiples of 0 5 times each, okay? And make sure you write it out each time you do it, just like Miss Morgan did. 0 times 0 equals 0. 1 times 0 equals 0, okay? The reason I want you to do it 5 times each, I know that seems like a lot, but it's because you need to be able to memorize these. And when I say memorize, that means know it by heart, where you don't even have to think about it. That way, in the future with our other lessons, you will know how to multiply. You won't even have to think about it because you'll know your multiples so well, okay? So for this lesson, make sure that you took your notes. Make sure that on the next page, you wrote your 0 multiplication facts. You wrote your rule down. And make sure that you do for me your multiples of 0 5 times each, okay? All right, thank you guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow.